In our previous discussion, we examined authority, silence, and the safety problem. We looked at how institutions naturally seek stability. We looked at how questioning can become uncomfortable. And we looked at how systems often become more concerned with preserving themselves. Tonight, we turn to another transformation, one that is far more subtle, one that happens so gradually that many practitioners never noticed it at all. When did Zen stop being a path of liberation and become a path of self-improvement? At first glance, this might seem like a strange question. After all, who would object to becoming a better person? Who would object to becoming calmer, healthier, more emotionally balanced? The answer is simple. Nobody should object to those things. The issue is not that these things are bad. The issue is that they are not what Zen was originally trying to accomplish. Somewhere along the way, the goal quietly changed. To understand how this happened, we need to understand the culture Zen entered. Zen arrived in a Western world that was increasingly psychological. During the 20th century, psychology became one of the dominant ways people understood themselves. Emotional health became important. Trauma became important. Self-esteem became important. Personal development became important. These developments were not without value. Psychology helped many people. Empathetic. It offered language for suffering that previous generations often lacked. It provided tools for understanding behavior, relationships, and emotional patterns. Zen entered this environment, and like everything else that enters a new environment, it adapted. But adaptation always comes with a price. Imagine a river flowing into a different landscape. The water remains water, but the shape of the river changes. Zen remained Zen, but its function slowly shifted. In traditional Buddhism, the fundamental problem was ignorance. Not ignorance in the ordinary sense of lacking information. Ignorance in the sense of misperceiving reality itself. According to the Buddha, suffering arises because we fundamentally misunderstand what we are. We mistake impermanent things for permanent things. We mistake conditioned things for unconditioned things. We mistake processes for selves. The solution was therefore insight, direct seeing, penetration into the nature of experience. Notice something important. The goal was not happiness. The goal was understanding. Happiness might follow. Peace might follow. Compassion might follow. But they were consequences. They were not the primary objective. Modern therapeutic culture begins somewhere else. The therapeutic project asks questions such as, how can I function better? How can I heal emotional wounds? How can I reduce anxiety? How can I improve my relationships? How can I become healthier? These are perfectly reasonable questions, but they are different questions. Zen originally asked something more unsettling. What is this I that seeks improvement? What is this self that is suffering? What exactly is being protected? Those questions strike much deeper. They are not asking how to improve the structure. They are investigating the structure itself. As Zen adapted to modern culture, these two projects slowly merged. Meditation began to be promoted as stress reduction. Retreats began emphasizing emotional healing. Dharma talks increasingly borrowed therapeutic language, while psychological wellness became intertwined with spiritual development. Again, none of this was malicious. In many ways it was inevitable. People naturally interpret new teachings through the language they already understand. And modern Western society understands itself largely through psychology, but a subtle shift occurred. The purpose of practice moved. Slowly, quietly, meditation became something you did to feel better. Zen became something you practiced to become a healthier version of yourself. Awareness became a tool for managing stress. And once that happened, the edge began to disappear, because the original purpose of Zen was never to make the self comfortable. It was to investigate the self so thoroughly. Those are not the same thing. Consider something simple. You can become very calm and still be deeply confused. You can become emotionally regulated and still cling to identity. You can become highly self-aware and still fundamentally misunderstand what the self is. Calmness and clarity are not identical. This distinction is often lost in modern discussions. Many people assume that because meditation produces calm, calm itself must be the goal. But calm is simply a condition. It is a weather pattern. It comes and goes. Insight is something different. Insight changes how experience is understood. A person may be calm because conditions are favorable. A person with insight sees clearly whether conditions are favorable or not. This distinction matters enormously, because once Zen becomes therapeutic, suffering itself begins to be interpreted differently. Suffering becomes something to reduce, something to manage, something to cope with. Traditionally, suffering was something to understand, not because suffering is good, but because suffering reveals something. It reveals attachment. It reveals resistance. It reveals identification. In many modern settings, discomfort is viewed primarily as a problem. In Zen, discomfort is often viewed as information about where the mind is grasping. This creates an interesting tension. Therapeutic culture seeks safety. Zen often seeks truth. Safety and truth are not enemies, but neither are they identical. Sometimes truth feels liberating. Sometimes truth feels destabilizing. Sometimes truth dismantles things we would prefer to keep. Modern spiritual culture often prefers the first version. The second version receives much less attention. Over time, Zen became increasingly safe, more accessible, more psychologically informed, more emotionally supportive. These changes brought genuine benefits. Many communities became healthier. Many abusive dynamics were challenged. Many practitioners found meaningful support. But every gain creates a trade. The question is not whether therapeutic Zen is good or bad. The question is what was exchanged. And what was exchanged, in many cases, was intensity. The intensity of radical inquiry. The intensity of existential doubt. The intensity of questioning the very foundation of self. That questioning became softer, sometimes much softer. So what happened? Zen entered a therapeutic age. It adopted therapeutic language. It adapted to therapeutic values. It became safer. It became kinder. It became easier to approach. And in the process, it gradually shifted from asking, "What am I?" to asking, "How can I feel better?" Those are not the same question. And that difference is one of the most important transformations in the history of Western Zen. Next time we come to the final discussion, after all the drift, after all the adaptation, after all the confusion, what is Zen still for? Because despite everything that has changed, the original question remains, waiting patiently beneath it all,